The indictment of former FBI Director James Comey, who was charged with one count of making false statements and one count of obstruction of justice for his Senate testimony in September of 2020 about Russian election interference. The charges came days after President Trump urged his attorney general to go after Comey, calling him, quote, guilty as hell. Comey says he is innocent, and Democrats say the charges are phony and based only on President Trump's desire for revenge. To put it in historical context, we're joined now by a presidential historian, one of my favorites, Douglas Brinkley. Professor Brinkley, thank you very much for being here. I often turn to history for some degree of comfort, knowing that the past is also crazy and chaotic, but this feels special. Can you put these events in context for us?
Well, this is crazier than things that have happened in the past. What is true, that is, Andrew Jackson also was somebody who wanted vengeance on his opponents. He thought he had won an election in 1824, but a corrupt bargain, as it was called, was made between Henry Clay and John Quincy Adams. And alas, he lost in 1824. But when Jackson got into power in 1828, he tried to rid Washington of any fingerprint or remaining hair of Henry Clay. He did away with the idea of a national bank, fired anybody that was with Clay or that was with Adams, wanted to purge Washington of what he thought were his political opponents. He did it in a begrudging way. And then you cut to more modern times, 20th century, with what Richard Nixon had built, an inner White House circle, a president's club that tried to circumvent the Justice Department, the FBI, State Department, CIA, you name it. And they tried to create a little cabal out of the White House. This led to many of Nixon's closest associates, like Haldeman and Ehrlichman, Chuck Colson, and others going to prison. And so now we're cut to Trump, and we're seeing his bold move to try to issue a predetermined indictments against James Comey.
You call it bold, and you say today is crazier than the past. But how is it different?
Because we now have a president of the United States that has an authoritarian bent like we've never seen before, and that he feels that retribution is his job in his second term. He has already determined the crimes, and it says, find me the crimes. I want to go after this person. Here's my enemies list. Now dig, find something, blame something on them. Nixon used to have a list, people that he enemies, and he'd have the IRS look into their taxes or make their audits hard. But this is now making a former FBI director walk in and register in for his upcoming hearing unless this gets dismissed, which it might. And it just shows that Donald Trump is desperate to feed red meat to his base. It's not been a good half a year for him. The MAGA crowd, loyalists, are angry about the Epstein files. He gloated about Jimmy Kimmel kind of getting his scalp, so to speak, and then Kimmel's back on the airwaves. And with Comey's, only had a few days where this was going to be able to make these charges before their statute of limitations kicked in. You see the president going right after Comey in a pretty tough way.
So, Douglas, quickly, what is the takeaway? Is this a new precedent?
I hope not. I hope it's not a new precedent. You won't have much of a Justice Department if it is, because top lawyers aren't going to want to work there. Already, people in the Justice Department, careerists, are looking to leave. Why would you want to have a boss tell you to make things up or behave in this sort of unsavory, unconstitutional way just to serve the whims of the president? We have a situation where Donald Trump thinks he owns the Justice Department. The Justice Department is owned by the people of America.
All right, Douglas Brinkley, thank you so much.